listening. We're always aiming high. We've got lots of great ideas for you. It's time to amplify.
Welcome to Amplify, a podcast series hosted by the Association for Accounting Marketing. My name is Patrick Huegel, and I'm a marketing manager at AAFCPAs in Boston. And I'm your host for today's session on adding social media advertising to your marketing mix. Joining me today is Eric Majchrzak. Eric is a shareholder and chief marketing officer at BeachFleishman in Tucson, Arizona, one of Arizona's largest locally owned CPA firms. Eric is also a past board member of AIM and a 2015 AIM Marketer of the Year. Welcome, Eric.
Thanks, Patrick. I appreciate the invite, and thanks to AIM for thinking of me for this. And I love this topic, and I think it's on the minds of a lot of marketers around the industry, which is paid social media and social media advertising. So there's a lot to cover in a short amount of the main points across for viewers today, and we can hash through some of the issues. So thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Definitely. Thanks for being here. So today we're, as you mentioned, going to be talking about adding social media advertising to your marketing mix, which I think is going to be a great topic. So can you give us some background on how paid social media has become such a credible tactic? For years, marketers were told that organic use is more credible. What's changed since then?
Right. Yeah, I actually agree with that. Years ago, I think brands could get a lot of mileage out of organic usage of social media. And but I think what's happened is that it's harder to reach an audience with organic nowadays, because I think that the social sites are limiting organic reach through algorithm changes and providing filters for folks. So people have choice with, and they're also pushing brands and firms and companies into paid because they have a business model to support. And so I think organic has always been credible, but I think what's really credible is when you can combine organic use plus the paid, because I think that just brings an extra amount of visibility and credibility to your brand, and people can engage you through the paid or through the organic. So I think the two together are a powerful combination.
Great. Can you tell us why firms should consider using paid?
For a few reasons. I think number one, it's you have a pay for performance model here, so there's really not a lot of waste. There's a lot of very targeted efforts that you can do, hyper local targeting, qualitative targeting based on interest, those types of things. So I think that's really attractive to a marketer, and it's also attractive to accountants because they know that there's not a lot of waste in the campaigns that you're running. But I think what's mostly attractive and why I think firms should consider paid is that the ads are really providing much more functionality now. It's not just a straight text ad. They actually have conversion elements within the ads themselves. So if you can imagine, you can use paid to install apps. You can use paid to promote events. You can use paid to increase lead generation or website conversions. As a matter of fact, when you set up these campaigns, especially like on Facebook, you'll notice it'll say, what are you trying to achieve? What is your desired outcome? And then they actually list some of the conversion tactics that you can kind of build into your ad. So I think that's really attractive for marketers because Facebook or LinkedIn, they're actually doing the work for you there on that. And so we all know that's very important. So I just think it's convenient. It's affordable. I think the social sites have made paid advertising more affordable than ever before. the first generation of some of these paid opportunities typically are reserved for large brands. And then as the site matures, you notice that they start rolling out advertising capabilities for smaller brands and local businesses and small businesses. So I think, accessibility, affordability, targeting all makes for great reasons to consider using paid.
Great, yeah. So how do you know when to use paid? How does a firm know when they should begin using it? Or when should you promote an organic post with paid advertising?
Right. And before I answer that, Patrick, the other good reasons to use paid, and it just crossed my mind, is that Facebook, LinkedIn, they really offer you some robust analytics if you're in the paid arena. So you can get access to the keywords, you can get access to the engagement rates and that if you're using the paid platform. And I'm sure a lot of you maybe have experienced that with Google paid as well. So, it's kind of that thing where they're forcing you to use the paid, and it can be very effective, but you're also getting a lot of upside with that, with the analytics on the back end. So, but to answer your question about how do you know when to use paid, what I like to do and what I like to recommend to marketers is, you always try the organic method on your page, your corporate page. And if the post isn't really performing that well naturally or organically, it's probably not a good candidate for paid. But if you see that it's actually performing pretty well, and that might be something that you might want to magnify by sinking in some advertising dollars behind that post. Again, you're supercharging that post. You're getting it out to a wider audience, a targeted audience. And so, that's one indication. One of the other methods you can do to determine whether you want to use paid or when to use paid or when to promote a post is actually it's based on a formula. And you have to know a few different things before you can actually apply the formula. And so what the formula is that you need to figure out what the cost or what the value or practice area or that particular conversion that you're trying to do. So, so in order to figure out the value of a lead, you need to know a couple of different things. What the average engagement size is for that particular practice area. So maybe it's $10,000 or $15,000. And then you take that and you multiply it times the conversion rate for that particular landing page or that piece of content. And what you do is then you do that formula, and then you end up with the value per lead, or it's a dollar amount basically. So as you guys know, when you're setting up a campaign and you're determining your pay-per-click rate on social, or maybe it's LinkedIn, it always gives you a dollar amount. And so you have to compare the two. Is the value of the lead greater than the cost of attaining that lead? So that's what actually has to happen. You want to make sure that the value of that lead, as determined through that formula, is greater than the cost of acquiring that lead. So you shouldn't necessarily use that as a sole determining, because you want to make sure that you're getting a good return on investment.
So I think a lot of us marketers are excited about the targeted reach and analytics you can get with paid social media advertising, but how do you get buy-in with your partners at the firm?
I think you have to start high level, and what I mean by that is you have to get your firm's digital brand is just as important as the face-to-face brand. So, I mean, our accountants, our partners are used to meeting people face-to-face. There's a certain experience that we promise face-to-face, over the phone, that kind of thing. Well, you really have to recreate that promise in the digital space as well. And there should be no gap between the two experiences. So if you're dealing with clients face-to-face in one particular manner, you actually have to try to recreate that in the online space. So a good example might be, you sponsor events in the community. I'll call them like these brick and mortar events where you show up and there's maybe a couple hundred people in a room. You need to be able to do the same thing online. The way to do that is to sponsor or to sponsor posts. So there you're creating the same experience online. So start very high level like that. I think you do want to emphasize that the targeting is very, second to none. On Facebook or LinkedIn, I mean, you can target your content to be seen by specific companies, people with specific titles, specific geographies, specific interests, that kind of thing. So it's very efficient. And then also, like we discussed before, it's action-oriented too, where you can actually build conversion techniques right into your ads. So, you're delivering on something very specific there, and you basically have to set expectations depending on what you're trying to accomplish. But I think the combination of those things is a pretty effective way to kind of promote that to your partner group.
I think that's a great point about not having a gap between experiences. Do you have any recommendations for marketers trying paid for the first time?
Yeah, I think what you want to do is not necessarily use paid as a standalone. And so you do want to integrate it into other efforts, because our audiences are so fragmented right now and people have so many choices that what I think you want to do is integrate it into some of your traditional outbound efforts and then also some of your inbound efforts. So combine paid with organic posts, combine paid with mailers, combine paid with any other technique that you're doing. Integrated is always best. And then you can put basically a metric on that campaign. So you can measure the performance of that campaign that integrates a lot of different elements into it. So integration, I think, is important because you really don't want to depend on one silver bullet per se. You want to put into different channels because people have different media habits. So the ideal situation would be, somebody comes, let's say a CFO comes into work, they open up their email, they see an email blast from your firm, they go online, they might see a retargeting ad because maybe they visited your website, then they go to their favorite social site and they see that organic post that maybe you put out, and then it's supported by a paid effort. And then maybe they hear something from a referral source or they see a print ad somewhere. So it's reinforcing that message. So integrated is powerful. I would also recommend that marketers try using value offers in their paid efforts. So, think of something of value that you can offer to the audience or to your constituents that you're promoting that post to. Maybe it's a checklist, maybe it's a white paper, maybe it's access to a diagnostic tool. Let's see, maybe it's an invite to a seminar. So anything like that that provides some value is always better. I think if you're looking or that return on investment, it's not to say that you can't promote content that doesn't necessarily have a strong call to action like that. I mean, we promote content that is strictly for awareness purposes. And so I would consider that top of funnel. We promote content that is kind of mid-funnel. Maybe it's about issues or problem solving. And then we have bottom of the funnel activities too, which are some of those tangible things that I just mentioned. But it's really all about the messaging, and you have to keep in mind what your customer's journey looks like and what their needs are depending on where they are in their decision-making process. So set your expectations accordingly.
That's great. Thank you very much, Eric, and thanks for joining us. I think this has been a great session. I think it'll provide people a lot to think about and why to use social media advertising and how to go about it. So, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. I think it's a fascinating topic because it's always changing. It's actually hard to stay on top of a lot of these things. The functionality is kind of, so, that's what AIM is really good about is, you can attend these sessions or you can go to conference and you can pick up bits and bytes of information and kind of keep you informed. And I do the same thing. I mean, I go to AIM to learn, and I have my circle of friends in the industry and outside the industry to help keep me informed. So I think it's all good stuff. And thank you for the invite. I really appreciate it.
Great. This wraps up another episode of AAMplify. Please watch for another podcast from the Association for Accounting Marketing next month. And don't forget, you can view all of our archived podcasts on the AIM YouTube page.
Listen